What kind of man stands against the entire world and refuses to compromise the truth? A man exiled 5 times, hunted, slandered, and nearly killed, yet remembered as a pillar of the church. This is the story of Saint Athanasius of Alexandria, the defender of Christ's divinity and one of the greatest saints in the history of the church. Athanasius was born around the year 295 AD to wealthy Christian parents in the city of Alexandria in Egypt. There he received a wonderful Christian and liberal education. One day, while at school, he was at the seashore with other children, playing at administering the rite of baptism, and Patriarch Alexander of Alexandria witnessed this. He called the boys over, and after questioning them, he decided to bring them to be more involved in the church service. From that moment, Patriarch Alexander was looking after the spiritual upbringing of Athanasius and in time brought him into the clergy, at first as a reader and later ordaining him as a deacon. Eventually, Athanasius would even become Patriarch Alexander's personal secretary around the year 318 AD. A few years later, an ambitious priest of the Alexandrian church named Arius denied the divinity of Christ. He began spreading word that because Jesus Christ was born as a man, he could not have existed before his birth, and therefore was not truly divine, but rather was a created being by the eternal Father. Thus began Christianity's fight against the heresy of Arianism. In the year 325 AD, there occurred the First Ecumenical Council of Nicea to determine the matters of this new teaching and dogma. Athanasius, as a deacon as well as Patriarch Alexander's secretary, accompanied him to this first council and stood by him along with a total of 318 bishops. Ultimately, the council definitively stated that Jesus was in fact divine and had existed as part of the Trinity before the Incarnation. The bishops condemned Arius as well as several of his followers, and they were exiled to Ilaria and excommunicated from the church. Also, ever heard of the Nicene Creed? Well, it was this council where the Nicene Creed was established and is still used today at many churches. However, a few months later, Patriarch Alexander passed away and Athanasius was unanimously elected to succeed him. Athanasius, however, refused as he believed that he was unworthy to take on such a position. But the people sought him, and at their insistence, he was ordained the 20th Pope of Alexandria in 328 AD, at about 30 years of age. Athanasius would remain on the throne for 46 years, and he was loved by the people and had a close relationship with many of the monks, including Saint Anthony, whom he later wrote the biography of. However, even after becoming Pope, the fight against Arianism continued. Despite its condemnation, it was still a popular belief, and Athanasius spent most of the rest of his life fighting against it. Athanasius continued to stick to the conclusions of the council, even in the face of threats. His Arian opponents had accused him of multiple crimes, including treason and even murder. Because they had connections to powerful people in the empire, they eventually succeeded in having Athanasius removed and exiled. Every time Athanasius faced trial and his period of exile was over, more charges would be set against him. During the 30 years between 335 AD and 366 AD, Athanasius was exiled at least 5 times and was forced to abandon his city. Here's a quick timeline of all his exiles. His first exile happened around the year 335 to 337 AD under Emperor Constantine, and Athanasius left Alexandria and went to what is present-day Trier, Germany. His second exile was from 339 to 346 AD under Emperor Constantius, and he went to live in Rome. The third exile was around the year 356 to 362 AD under the same emperor, and Athanasius went to live in the Egyptian desert. Fourth exile was from 362 to 363 AD under Emperor Julian, and he again went to live in the Egyptian desert. Lastly, the fifth and final exile was from 365 to 366 AD under Emperor Valens, and Athanasius once again went to the Egyptian desert. In total, Athanasius spent about 17 years in exile before he was finally able to return to Alexandria and live peacefully. Afterwards, he remained on the throne for another 7 years, guiding the Alexandrian church, and eventually died in May 373 AD, around the age of 75. His life is celebrated and remembered on his feast day May 2nd in Western Christianity, while the Coptic Orthodox Church celebrates his feast on May 15th. Throughout his life, Athanasius not only defended the church, but also wrote many powerful pieces. His most famous work is his treatise, similar to an essay but longer, called On the Incarnation, that explains why God became man. If Athanasius had not stood up for our faith, perhaps the church would not be the same today. He was a constant thorn in the side of the powerful, and for this reason, he became associated with the Latin phrase Athanasius contra mundum, meaning Athanasius against the world. May his prayers be with all of us, and may we too learn to be courageous and stand for the truth, even when the whole world is against us.